Good morning. I'm Jennifer Barkin, and here's my co host, Jennifer Donison. Welcome to Breakup Bites. Today, we are going to talk about something called travel consent letters. Jennifer and I were discussing that this may be a good topic, seeing as it's summer vacation, kids are off school, and it's a popular time that parents want to leave the country or travel with their children. So, good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Jen. Yes, it's a very popular topic because a lot of people don't really think about it. They make sure they have their passports, they have everything they need that's packed in their luggage, and they forget that last step of travel consent, especially if the parties are amicable because they don't think that it's something that's needed. It's more for high conflict that people think, oh, I need to have my ex sign. But it's something that everybody needs when they're in a separated family.
So, I'm going to clarify when you need a travel consent. If you are traveling, if you're Canadian, and our viewers are mostly Canadian, if you are traveling within this country, you don't need a travel consent. It's for international travel. So, international travel can even be the United States. It's a different country. That's when you're going to need a travel consent letter. So, what is a travel consent letter? A travel consent letter is a letter that states the other parent's name and your children's names and birthdays and gives permission to the traveling parent to travel with the children to wherever they're going. So it may read something like this: I, Jennifer Barkin, give consent to my children's mother, Jennifer Donison, to travel with the children to Aruba, um, or my two children to Aruba, names of the two children from the dates to the dates. And then it is signed in front of a notary. A notary is somebody who can um, sign under oath, and this makes your notarized document. So that's what it is. Um, what I hear a lot of from parents is, well, I took the kids away last year and we traveled to, I don't know, to Paris, and nobody asked me for anything. And my answer to that is, well, they're supposed to. So you're actually really lucky. And if you were asked for it at the airport and you didn't have it, this letter, this notarized letter, they can turn you away. So it's not worth it because you spent all this money, you're excited to go on vacation, and now you're not going anywhere.
It's actually, yeah, it's a big problem, especially when people are creating their separation agreement with us, because we need to make sure that the other parent is going to agree to sign this travel consent. Because sometimes, if you have a very conflictual party, they will, out of spite, deny signing. Sometimes altogether and sometimes to the very last minute. So I've had a client who literally was going to travel and asked for consent for 3 weeks prior, and the ex only signed it the day before she was leaving. And it's very stressful. You have so many other things going on, and you want that other person to sign just for peace of mind in case they do ask. And when they withhold the consent, it's very stressful. However, in our separation agreements, we always make sure to address travel consent and how it's not going to be unreasonably denied. And if it is unreasonably denied, then that will create a whole other issue, and it will not look good on the person unreasonably denying it if it is ever brought in front of a judge.
For sure. In my parenting coordination practice, travel consents are common, or the lack of providing them. I typically see people that have created what I call kitchen table agreements. And as I'm always explaining, they're not the best idea to do, even if you follow a template, because things are left out. For example, I'm not a dentist. I wouldn't dare tell you you have a cavity or fill your tooth. It's not your wheelhouse. That's why I say leave the parenting plan up to the professionals, and these things should be in there. So, stating that, um, I don't know what you put in yours, but I'll share a few things that I put in mine when it comes to travel consents. Firstly, other than saying that the parties shall provide one another with travel consents, notarized travel consents, if they wish to travel outside the country with the children. But I like to add in um, timelines. So that way you don't have that situation of I'm leaving 6 a.m. tomorrow and and somebody is just trying to be a you know what and hold some power over me. So I might say no less than 21 days before the travel date, the non-traveling party shall provide the traveling party with the notarized letter, and then I will typically add, there is a cost for the notarized letter for the person getting it, depending where you live, what part of the province. It can be $60, it can be $80. They're not horribly expensive, but there is a cost. So I will add in that the party, the non-traveling party who paid for the consent, will provide a receipt for its cost to the traveling party, and they shall be reimbursed by, let's say, e-transfer within 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever the parties decide on. But that way, I have some boundaries of how far ahead people can have it to ensure that they're not getting it last minute. And nobody can say, well, why should I pay for it? Because we've covered the costs.
Perfect. And I do something very similar in my agreements. And I think that's so important to have a very specific agreement, especially always, but especially when the parties aren't amicable, because it's going to be one less thing that you're going to have conflict over. So it's just the boundaries, the specifics of it, and making sure that everything is worked out. But like Jen said, it's something that you just need to get notarized. You pay for it, you get reimbursed, whatever the case may be, you have peace of mind. And personally, I can say I've never been asked for travel consent. Luckily, now I knock on wood because it's going to happen next time. But it does happen. And Jen, you were saying earlier that you have experienced either someone you know or a client or something that has been asked. Is that right?
I have, and they've been turned away and not allowed to board the plane. So nobody wants that. Everything's so expensive these days. Cost of travel is exorbitant, and especially when you're traveling with kids during those summer breaks, Christmas breaks, March breaks, where basically everything's 3 times as expensive. You're risking a lot of money not to have that consent. So here's
And
the thing. The guys at immigration or the ladies at immigration, they're supposed to be asking for this letter. A lot of times they don't, so they're slacking on their job. But I don't think anybody wants to be in that position where, guess what? They asked today and I can't get on my plane with the kids.
right. And something else that we touched on earlier, just you and I, was talking about last names and how many people revert back to their maiden name after separation or divorce. And it's interesting because when you don't have the same last name as your children, it may also raise more of a flag while going through if your passports have different identification on them. So yeah, I'm not quite sure if that's something that is more or less flagged going through security, but I would imagine that if you had a different name than your children, it would be something that they would look at as more of, looking for the travel consent from the other parent.
Well, I was personally divorced with young children, and I have a different last name than my children and their father. So I was stopped quite a bit. They would say, "Who's barking? Who's bursting?" Um, but I always had the letter to travel. Um, just, I guess, a little trivia where this letter of travel idea or concept really comes from. Um, it's set up to prevent child abduction. So, that's a horrible thing. And a lot of people have heard of, horrible divorce or separation where a parent takes the children and, disappears. So to prevent that,
No,
there's a letter. There's a letter.
no, it's very important. And you, as the parent who's not going to be traveling, it's a nice feeling knowing that you need to give your consent so the other party can't just take the children as they please and go somewhere, especially, as I said, if it's not a very amicable split, you want to have that peace of mind that your children are always safe. So it's important to have in place.
And ensuring they go to a country that, let's say, is a Hague country. And a Hague country, the Hague Treaty, is a treaty that a lot of countries have signed to prevent child abduction. So you may want to think twice about sending your children to a country that's not part of the Hague, because at least if a parent takes the children to a Hague country and they don't bring them back, you can get the embassy and government involved in their return.
Right. Hope that never happens to our viewers or anyone in general.
Excuse me.
Bless you. So
Thank you.
that's a little bit about travel consent. If you have any questions, you can always reach out and ask one of us anything. And we appreciate you tuning in.
Thank you. I'm Jennifer Barkin, and this is Jennifer Donison. Have a great day and tune in next time.